Lingue Originali.
Nelle intenzioni di Caffè Italia e di Marco Piovaz, il nostro lettore di lingua inglese, questo episodio, come vi avevo detto nel precedente, avrebbe dovuto essere l'ultimo dedicato al libro Middle England di Jonathan Coe. E invece no, grazie a voi. E allora andiamo con ordine. Prima di tutto, bentornati a Lingue Originali da Dario Albertini, che nelle puntate dedicate rispettivamente alla letteratura in lingua inglese e a quella in lingua tedesca apre e chiude per facilitare la comprensione del testo che tra poco torneremo a leggere in lingua madre, e nello stesso tempo per suscitare la vostra curiosità e magari portarvi a leggere il libro anche in lingua italiana, perché no, se non avete questa dimestichezza con le lingue straniere. E invece no, dicevo, non è l'ultimo episodio dedicato a Middle England, per colpa vostra o grazie a voi che avete manifestato e state manifestando un grande interesse per questa rilettura in chiave di romanzo dell'Inghilterra di oggi, quantomeno dell'Inghilterra fino al 2018, partendo dal 2010. Sì, un romanzo, la storia di una famiglia dalla quale però si comprende quelli che siano usi, costumi, emozioni, sensazioni, opinioni della società inglese nel periodo pre-Brexit e fino al varo della stessa Brexit. Chi segue le notizie non avrà mancato di notare che pur con questa spaccatura, diversificazione, diciamo, che si è verificata in Europa con la Brexit, il dialogo fra Unione Europea e Regno Unito è tornato a animarsi, no? La ricerca di forme di collaborazione compatibili, vicine a ciò che era prima della Brexit, è qualcosa di cui le cronache ci parlano tutti i giorni. Quindi questo libro di Jonathan Coe mantiene una sua attualità e io vi consiglio di leggerlo perché è un modo molto semplice per conoscere le dinamiche culturali, sociali e politiche dell'Inghilterra, per chi magari in questi aspetti della vita non entra mai così tanto, ma comunque è una bella lettura. E allora, scusate, quinto appuntamento, ma ce ne saranno altri 4, con Middle England di Jonathan Coe, letto in lingua originale da Marco Piovaz.
The lecture theatre was almost full. There must have been an audience of almost 200. A few students seemed to have come along, but most of the patient, anticipatory faces Sophie saw around her seemed to belong to people in their 50s or over. From her position in one of the top rows, she found herself looking out towards the stage, across a sea of white hair and bald patches. Ranged on the stage were 4 speakers: Sohan, the 2 distinguished novelists, and a lecturer from the French department, who was there to translate Monsieur Adelbert's answers into English for the audience, and to whisper a French translation of Sohan's questions into his ear. The chair and the translator looked anxious. The 2 writers beamed at the audience expectantly. After some interminable opening remarks from the Vice-Chancellor, battle commenced. Whether it was the disjointedness imposed by the translator's presence or Sohan's obvious nervous tension, the discussion didn't get off to a smooth start. The question posed to each writer were long and rambling, while the answers came in the form of speeches rather than the intimate and free-flowing conversation Sohan had been hoping for. After about 15 minutes, during the latest monologue from Lionel Hampshire, which found him making confident generalizations about the difference between French and British attitudes towards literature, Sohan could be seen to retreat behind his page of notes, which he seemed to be scanning frantically. A few seconds later, Sophie felt her phone vibrate and realized that he was in fact sending her a text message. "Help! I've already run out of questions. What next?" She glanced to the left and right of her, but neither of the people in the adjacent seats seemed to have noticed who the message had come from, or even that it had come at all. After thinking for a moment, she wrote back, "Ask PA if he agrees that the French take books more seriously." Sohan's reply, a thumbs-up emoji, came very quickly, and a few seconds later, after Lionel Hampshire's latest address finally slowed to a halt, he could be heard saying to Monsieur Adalbert, "I wonder how you would respond to that. Is that just another typical British stereotype about the French, that we think you're more respectful towards writers than we are?" After a translation of the question had been whispered into his ear, Monsieur Adalbert paused, pursed his lips, and seemed to cogitate deeply. "Les stéréotypes peuvent nous apprendre beaucoup de choses," he answered at last. "Stereotypes can be very meaningful," the translator translated. Qu'est-ce qu'un stéréotype, après tout, si ce n'est une remarque profonde dont la vérité essentielle s'est émoussée à force de répétition? What is a stereotype, after all, except a profound observation whose essential truth has been dulled by repetition? Si les Français vénèrent la littérature davantage que les Britanniques, c'est peut-être seulement le reflet de leur snobisme viscéral qui place l'art élitiste au-dessus des formes plus populaires. If the French revere literature more than the British do, perhaps this is a mere reflection of their essential snobbery, which prioritizes elitist art over forms which are more popular. Les Français sont des gens intolérants, toujours prêts à critiquer les autres, contrairement aux Britanniques, me semble-t-il. The French are an intolerant, judgmental people, not like the British, I think. "What makes you say that?" Sohan asked. "Qu'est-ce que vous fait dire ça?" whispered the translator. "Eh bien, observons le monde politique. Chez nous, le Front National est soutenu par environ 25% des Français. Well, let's look at the political world. Our National Front commands the support of about 25% of the French people. En France, quand on regarde les Britanniques, on est frappé de constater que, contrairement à d'autres pays européens, vous êtes épargnés par ce phénomène, le phénomène du Parti populaire d'extrême droite. In France, we look at the British and we are impressed that, unlike most other European countries, you don't have this phenomenon, a popular party of the far right. Vous avez le UKIP, bien sûr, mais d'après ce que je comprends, c'est un parti qui cible un seul problème et qui n'est pas pris au sérieux en tant que force politique. You have UKIP, of course, but my understanding is that they are a single-issue party who are not taken seriously as a political force." Sohan waited for him to elaborate further, and when he didn't, turned to Lionel Hampshire and asked him rather desperately, "Would you care to comment on that?" "Well," said the eminent novelist, "as a rule, I'm wary of these broad generalizations about national character, but I think Philip has probably put his finger on something here. I'm not an uncritically patriotic person, far from it. But there is something in the English character that I admire, and Philip is right about it. I mean, our love of moderation. Our immoderate love of moderation, if you like." This choice phrase plopped into the reverent silence of the room and set off a ripple of laughter. We're a pragmatic nation, politically. Extremes of left and right don't appeal to us. And we're also essentially tolerant. That's why the multicultural experiment in Britain has by and large been successful, with one or two minor blips. I wouldn't presume to compare us to the French in this regard, of course, but certainly, speaking personally, these are the things I most admire about the British, our moderation and our tolerance. What a load of self-satisfied bullshit, said Sohan. But regrettably, he did not say it on stage.
L'evoluzione sociale dell'Inghilterra nell'arco di circa un decennio nel libro di Jonathan Coe dal titolo Midlands. Ricordo che lo trovate in edizione italiana in libreria, pubblicato da Feltrinelli. Io ringrazio ancora una volta Marco Piovaz per queste letture. Vi ricordo che Lingue Originali esce con 3 episodi ogni settimana, il primo dedicato alla letteratura in lingua inglese, il secondo a quella tedesca con Nadia Meroni, il terzo alla letteratura francese con Barbara Bachan, che fa tutto da sé. Come dico sempre, 2 trasmissioni in una. Nella prima parte un ampio ritratto dell'autore e una presentazione dell'opera, e poi la lettura in lingua francese. Dario Albertini vi ringrazio per l'ascolto. Grazie ancora a Marco Piovaz. Appuntamento al prossimo episodio di Lingue Originali.
Lingue Originali.